Good evening. Welcome to the, has this meeting been properly noticed?
Yes, it has.
Can you please call the roll?
Carlin?
Here.
Eliason?
Here.
Evans?
Here.
Garner?
Here.
Herzog?
Here.
Olmsted?
Here.
Peschel?
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, and tonight will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Webster Stanley Elementary School students.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you guys for coming. I don't feel obligated to say, although you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, tonight is a public hearing on the budget, so we'll go right into that. All right, so we need to start with a call to order. Do we have to do that again?
No, we did that.
So we're all set. So reading of the published budget notice, a budget hearing will be held on Wednesday, October 11th, 2017 at 6 p.m. in the boardroom of the Oshkosh Area School District Administration Center, 215 South Eagle Street, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. A detailed copy of the budget will be available on Friday, September 22nd, 2017 at the Administration Center or by contacting Sue Schnorr at 920-424-0122. The summary of the budget is printed below. So we'll do the presentation of the 2017-18 budget.
Okay. As I stated last year, I am working on getting our budget book to comply with this meritorious budget award program through ASBO. It is a work in progress. I hope to finish it yet this fall, but it's much more intense than I ever dreamed of when I started this project. But I'm going to finish it, so maybe not this fall, but my goal is this fall. But what you have in front of you in the packet is two sections. The organizational section is about 95% complete. The financial section is a good way done, but not totally done. I still then will have to finish the financial section, the introduction, and the informational session. Hope to do that yet this fall. If I do, then we'll have another workshop where I go through the whole book with the board. But at least you have part of it in front of you now. School district accounting is fund accounting. And how this book is laid out is it's by funds. And the general operating fund, which makes up about 67% of the district's budget, is where the day in and day out operations of the school district come from. The next part is the special projects fund. Majority of that, other than about $350,000 of that is the special education funds. All costs associated with special education are designated in what's called Fund 27. So between the special projects fund and the general fund, you can see that's like 83% of the district's budget. Then we have debt service. Well, let's do capital projects first. Capital projects is on page 31 of the budget book. If you wanted to kind of flip between them. Capital projects funds is for when the district borrows money and then spends that money on a special project. We currently have 3 different designations or breakdowns of capital project funds. Fund 46 is actually that one's a little different. It's not borrowed money. That's actually money you transferred from the general operations back in 2014. It's called.
Are we supposed to have a booklet?
It was put in your packet.
In the packet? You know what
But I
page?
do have extras here.
You know what page it is?
Teresa made like
here?
paper copies. This is on page 31.
31.
I'm sorry.
Just retrieve one.
Should I get one for everybody?
Yeah.
I think there should be.
I'm fine, I've got it on
Okay.
what you
It's
sent
on
to us.
everything's on the computer.
Yeah, I've got it.
Everything's on the computer, but I did, Bob just put some paper copies over there by Jim, so if you wanted to actually be able to follow along. I have extras over here too in the back if anyone in the audience would like a paper copy. The capital projects fund, which is about 7% of our total budget,
is on page 31 in the booklet. And I was talking about Fund 46 was a fund that the board started in 2014. It gives the opportunity for the board to transfer money from the general fund to this Fund 46, but you couldn't touch it for 5 years. So you transferred 1.2, roughly 1.250 million back in 2014. It has to sit there for 5 years. When that 5 years is up, you can then do any kind of projects that have to do with your district's capital improvement plan. You also have a 10-year capital improvement plan. This money can be spent on anything in that plan after the 5 years is up. That fund now has $1,276,000, so every year it does earn interest on it.
So we've done 1 year of that. So we're
Right.
in year one, okay.
Well, actually, you put the money in 2014, so actually
Oh.
we're ending year 3.
Okay,
So roughly 2 more years.
Good.
I'd have to go back to look at the exact date you put it
Okay.
in. But roughly 2.5 years from now, the board would have the option to spend that money on something in the 10-year capital improvement plan.
Okay.
Or you could just let it continue to build and grow interest there. Fund 47 is where we put the money from the energy efficiency projects. The board's done 3 different,
Sorry.
That's okay.
Before you go back
No problem.
too much further. In the opening line of that description of the capital fund, it talks about the minimum of 10 years. So you talked about 5 years. Do we have to use it by that?
no, you have to, in order to be able to set up one of these funds,
Okay.
you have to have a capital improvement plan.
Okay.
And the capital improvement plan has to be a 10-year plan.
Okay.
That's why it's kind of confusing. The capital improvement plan has to be a 10-year plan in which Jim Fox, our Buildings and Grounds Director, has developed a plan, and he's done a workshop on that, but we can
Sure.
always get you a copy of that. But then, so in order to set one of these funds up, you had to have that 10-year capital improvement plan in place first. Then, once you set this fund up, you couldn't spend the money until 5 years after the date you set the fund up.
Okay.
Why they're 2 different,
So it has an initial 5-year setup that the money has to stay in there
right.
before it can be used. And then after that, as long as there's stuff that's in that plan, we can use it towards that plan.
Correct. Once the 5 years expires, then the board can use that money on anything it chooses as long as the items are in the district's 10-year plan.
Do we update that plan every year?
Yes, every year Jim Fox sits down and takes a look at what's been accomplished, what should come on. So it's kind of a liquid plan,
Okay.
but it is a 10-year plan.
Okay, thank you.
Then Fund 47 is where we put all of our energy efficiency projects. As you know, we did 3 of those. We're on our 3rd one. We borrowed money to do those, and then we put the money, once we borrowed it, we put the proceeds from the borrowing in Fund 47, and that's where we've been spending the money out of in Fund 47 for those energy efficiency projects. We're still on the 3rd project that should be finished for the most part in 2018. Next summer will be the final year of that project. And as you know, the governor has eliminated energy efficiency projects, so it was a good thing we took advantage of that when we had the opportunity. And Fund 49 is Oak Lawn Elementary School's building project. So we went to referendum, that was approved, we borrowed the money was put in Fund 49, and we're spending it out of there. And we have about $48,000, well, actually, you can see right there in the 17-18 budget, we have $48,868,000 left in that fund. What we plan to do on that, with that money, is build a garage next to the site, because there's very limited storage that was built into that facility, and there's no place to keep mowing and lawn tractors and all of that. So the goal, as you know, we purchased the property next to there, and our goal is to build some kind of a garage structure. So hopefully by the end of 17-18, that money will be gone.
Sometimes it's helpful to remind that those energy projects that we're paying, they're like home improvement loans. And the Oak Lawn is like a home mortgage. We're paying off for that new school's mortgage. And if we translate it into personal terms, those sets of energy projects are like home improvement loans, a series of them. And the Oak Lawn bond issue is really a home mortgage that we're paying off over 20 years.
Then back to this pie chart, one of the other funds is called a debt service fund. That's 4% of our total budget, and that starts on page 30 and 31 of the budget book to kind of explain to you what those are. 30 is broken down into two different funds, 38 and 39. 38 is the repayment of debt that the district did not go to referendum. So if the district did not go to referendum, then the repayment of that debt has to come out of Fund 38. And except for energy efficiency, you have to live within the revenue limit in making these payments. So if the board can borrow up to $1 million every year without going to referendum. You have that option as a board. However, you have to make the repayment of that within the revenue limit structure, and the revenue limit controls what you can tax. So Fund 38 debt comes under the revenue limit, and you have to, that's part of what the controlled levy is. The exception to that is the energy efficiency projects. There's a line item exemption for the tax levy for the energy efficiency projects. So it's like we have to live within our limit for those energy efficiency projects, but then we get an exemption that says, okay, you can tax more because you have these energy efficiency projects. The only difference is that we have to subtract the potential energy savings that we're going to receive from those projects off of that exemption. Then food service, that one's pretty self-explanatory. It's only 2% of our budget, and that's all costs associated with our food service budget, and that is a self-sustaining budget. The revenues equal the expenditures. In fact, in 16-17, for the first time in several years, we actually turned a profit. So we ended the year with about $30,000 profit in Fund 50, which is really good. And she plans to use a portion of that part of it is just to develop some fund balance in there. We don't have any fund balance in Fund 50, but then there's so many equipment needs in that program that she's going to start addressing some of the equipment needs in some of the kitchens in that program. Let's go around the other side first. Before I'll keep the employee trust funds for last. Community service, that is our recreation department. As you know, we run community rec. Not all school districts run community rec. Majority of school districts, the municipality actually runs community rec, but in our community, in probably, I don't know, maybe 40 or 50, I don't have the exact number, other school districts run community rec, so that is the main part for that. But then also on page 35 of the book.
Al has the exact number.
30, okay. I didn't want to put you on the spot, but thank you. On page 35 of the document does show you what other programs we've currently allocated to Fund 80. Now, because Fund 80 is outside the revenue limits, that used to be part of the revenue limits, and then the legislature took it out of the revenue limits, and surprisingly, districts took advantage of that and moved programs there. So DPI has really cracked down on what you can actually legally have in Fund 80. And this district and this board has always been very upfront and very transparent about that. And this listing of all the things that this district has in Fund 80 are all legitimate uses of Fund 80. We don't have anything buried there that I would feel uncomfortable, or you as a board should feel uncomfortable having in Fund 80. The other one, consortium programs, I know it says 0%. That's a reading recovery program. We are the fiscal agent for a program that's on page 36 of the book. There are 10 school districts that make up this reading recovery consortium. And 2 years ago, Menasha was the fiscal agent, and they just decided not to be part of that anymore. So they said, Oshkosh, will you be the fiscal agent, which means we hold all the money. So this program employs like a teacher and a half, and then all the training for all of the districts that participate in this program. We then pay all the bills, but then we bill all of those other districts. So that's why it's kept in a separate fund, because then it doesn't affect your Fund 10. We pay our 1/10 of that cost with a transfer from Fund 10.
Excuse me, I see that the proposed budget is significantly higher than the year 16-17 activity. Is there something that explains that?
Their budget is just higher. The consortium comes up with the budget and tells us what they would like to budget. And typically it is higher than what they end up actually spending.
Okay.
But then we actually only bill the participating districts for the actual costs of the program.
And so we're not losing money on this program?
No, no.
Thank you.
I think I've explained all of them now. Employee Trust Fund is the final fund. That's 3% of our budget, and that's on page 34 of the book. The district offers a post-employment benefit to our employees. And several years ago, DPI said that you should move that money into a trust fund. So we pay all the costs associated with the post-employment benefits out of Fund 73. And how that fund is a transfer from Fund 10. So we actually calculate what the actual costs of paying all the retired employees' benefits are in a given year. As you can see, that 4.7 million is approximately what we spend on an annual basis for post-employment benefits, or the majority of that. That is then divided over all employees equally through payroll, so that it gets expensed to all the different account codes where employees are. So if an employee is funded by a grant, that small portion of that employee's portion gets allocated to that grant. Some of our special education teachers, we get state aid, special education aid on the salaries and benefits of special education teachers. By allocating a portion of that cost to all of our employees, then we get categorical handicap aid on those employees. So we get some additional state aid by having a Fund 73 and allocating that cost over all the employees. As you know, we have made some changes to our post-employment benefit. In 2014, we restructured the administrator post-employment benefit, and last school year, 16-17, we changed the post-employment benefit for our teaching and our support staff. For our support staff, anybody hired after May 1st does not have a post-employment benefit anymore at all, which is very comparable to what other districts do. And those hired previous to that just have the benefit that was available to them, and every group unfortunately has a different benefit. But for the teaching staff, we use the date of May 1st, 2011. So anyone hired before May 1st of 2011, because that was the date that kind of coincided with when Act 10 became effective, are grandfathered into the current approximately 8 years of paid health insurance, and we have 541 teachers currently, as of a year ago, were grandfathered. Now, every year, of course, that number is going to continue to go down as people retire and leave the district, because then anyone hired after May 1st of 2011, which is 355 people, they have money put in an HRA for them. And then there's a 5-year vesting schedule. So, and I think the board had a workshop on that a while back, but I just wanted to remind you that all of that is what runs through Fund 73. And just taking a look at where the money comes from. As you can see, our two major revenue sources are property taxes and state aid. Now, this is just Fund 10. I didn't include all the funds together, but Fund 10 is our major operating fund. So in this diagram, I just included Fund 10. As you can see, property taxes make up just shy of 40% of our Fund 10 budget. Revenue from the state is 56%. So between the two of those, it's about 95% of our budget. And that's what the revenue limit formula controls. Revenue limit formula controls state aid and tax levy. So as you can see that the majority of our budget is controlled by that revenue limit formula. And this was just a recap from what I talked about at the workshop that I did in the end of September. There was going to be a proposed low revenue ceiling, which would have given our budget $423,000. That's what the governor vetoed. But that is unfortunately still in the budget that we have in front of us, because I kept the budget intact that was published. When I do a budget adjustment this fall, that will be removed out of there. We did get the $200 per pupil increase in the per pupil aid, which was $1.8 million.
Excuse me, I attended the Board of Control meeting last night for CISA 6, and Ted Knightsky, the director, noted that low revenue item that was vetoed is probably going to come back. and is going to be reviewed statewide. It was noted that 28 of the 40 CISA districts would have benefited from that, and that there is interest in the legislature to do something for districts, primarily because lawmakers are concerned about districts going to referendum for operating expenses. So the thinking is if we had this revenue, we would not need, we and other districts would not need to be looking at referenda for operating expenses, so stay tuned.
That is encouraging. I have heard rumblings of that, but I didn't know how serious they were, so that's good to hear.
If it comes from Ted, it's usually spot on. Thank you.
Then what I've provided, and we hadn't talked about this at all in the workshop, is a proposed tax levy. I'm always a little apprehensive to do this because we don't have all the numbers yet. But this it was my best guess as of a couple weeks ago, which because they froze our revenue limit formula, as you can see in Fund 10, there's a minor increase of about 1.7%. Fund 38 is our debt, as I talked about, is our debt service fund. That's actually going down because in 16-17, it was the first year of that our latest energy efficiency. And we had a huge levy increase last year. Just the way the debt was structured, our Fund 38 last year, a year ago, went up 22%. Because the way the debt payments were structured, we made a big debt payment in the first year of that energy efficiency borrowing. Now it's actually going down because this will be what our annual payments will average about. But then, as after I was pulling all of this together, we actually got our property values. I actually got our property values after I put all this information together. DPI released property values, and we're actually seeing, the Oshkosh School District is actually seeing a 4% increase in our property values. That previous estimate that I gave you, I just gave it a 1% increase. But we are actually increasing in property values by 4%, which means that even though the tax levy is the same, the way that is divided over more property, your mill rate is actually going down by 37 cents, or 3.67% is what our mill rate will be going down. Just based on this estimate. Now, I know property values, but that's still a mill rate estimate because I don't know what our state aid is yet. I haven't incorporated third Friday pupil count, even though we know that. I haven't incorporated the third Friday pupil count in here yet. But that is good news. Also, if we get any increase in, I know that our pupil count went up, which would increase our tax levy, but I also know that I haven't incorporated any state aid increase in, and we almost always get some kind of increase in state aid, so that would offset that. The next meeting in 2 weeks, we will have the final numbers to approve the tax levy. By January 20th, DPI has to give us our state aid number.
Right, not by January 20th, but.
Oh, did I say January?
Yeah, October 20th.
Same
I
difference.
was just say,
Yep.
Sorry.
I figured you
Thank
meant
you.
that, but.
Yeah,
Yeah.
October 20th, sorry, I know I was thinking January. Then this next graph shows where the money goes, and I just used Fund 10 for this, but then after I had it all done and ready, I thought, Fund 27 is our special education fund, so if you're really gonna look at the major funds in the district, you really should combine the two of them. So I did a chart, and that's what I handed out, that combines Fund 10 and Fund 27 together. And before they had a Fund 27, all those costs were consolidated. So when you really wanna look at the district's budget for operations, you really need to look at these two funds together. And it balances by making a transfer from Fund 10 to 27, but I didn't include that in here because then it would be a duplicate cost. So if you look at those two funds together, you can see that over 80% of our budget is salary and fringes when you look at those two funds together. And then this slide is what I went over with you at our budget workshop. I assumed a CPI increase. I assumed step and longevity movement for employees. an 8% health insurance increase, which is actually a 3, but it's still 8 in the budget. We had a small deficit, like about 100,000 from 16-17. That revenue limit decrease will be gone if we truly did grow in students when I incorporate that. And then we had a projected deficit. I went over this with you the last workshop too, with some of the additions to the budget. And then these were some of the reductions that we made. But we still have a deficit simply because some of these just didn't happen, but we'll have to continue to work on proposed deficits. So the bottom line is this budget has a $538,000 deficit remaining. And that was because some of those items on that proposed cut list didn't happen or weren't practical, or we need to kind of weed that out a little bit. But now, because we lost that low revenue ceiling, that 538 is more like 900,000. But if you take out the health insurance increase, that's a big chunk in there. I know for 17-18, we are using some grant carryover funds to also offset the deficit. It's a one-time fix, but by the time we take care of doing that and the health insurance piece, we should be down to only about a $200,000 or $300,000 deficit for 17-18. And that's my presentation.
Thank you, Sue.
Thanks. Any questions?
All right, and since this is a public hearing, I'm going to go ahead and read the guidelines for public comment if there's anybody here from the public that would like to address the board on this budget. We'll need your name and address. Please limit your comments to 15 minutes, and these are public comments, not a question-answer dialogue. So is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on this budget? Okay, seeing none, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All
Wow.
right, so do we need to call the roll for this?
For the adjournment.
The adjournment.
Yep, go ahead.
Carlin.
Aye.
Eliason.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Turner.
Aye.
Herzog.
Aye.
Olmsted.
Aye.
Peschel.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, now, do we need to set it all up again? All right, so we need to, are we in compliance with open meeting laws
Yes.
for the public? Okay. Will you please call the roll?
Carlin.
Here.
Eliason.
Here.
Evans.
Still here.
Turner.
Here.
Herzog.
Here.
Olmsted.
Here.
Peschel.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. All right, so now we're into our regularly scheduled meeting. Starts with the board president's report. I'd like to give my time to introduce 3 people that I brought tonight that are thinking about perhaps joining a board in Oshkosh with the intent of diversifying boards within the Oshkosh area. So if you guys would just stand, introduce yourselves, and tell us a little bit about yourselves, that'd be great. Do you want them to come?
My name is Debbie Vick, and this is Steve Tolt, and we're here on behalf of Propel, the Young Professionals Group. That's a group of driven and motivated young professionals in the city of Oshkosh. We are an entity of the Oshkosh Chamber. And over the past year, we've gone through kind of a revamping overhaul. We've changed our mission and are focusing more on retaining and attracting young professionals in the city of Oshkosh and figuring out kind of our place in the community and figuring out how we can kind of dig in and consume some leadership roles in the area.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I am from the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Oshkosh, and we felt that it was time that our presence was felt in the community. We've been doing so much in the community, but this time we wanted to diversify the boards and wanted to join some kind of board. And I've been a native of Oshkosh for the past 17 years. My kids were born here, they go to school here. So I felt as a concerned mom that, I should be part of this group.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, we'll go right into, superintendent evaluation report real quick. We did have a closed meeting last week, and we did an evaluation for Stan Mack. I'm just going to do some of the highlights. We evaluate him quarterly. This is the year end. let's see, we were focused on his strengths opportunities for growth with regards to progress towards educational goals. His strengths include his ability to connect with the community, his visibility, the high level of respect that he's earned in Oshkosh. He's also adept at resolving conflict and diffusing tension, and he makes a tireless effort to take on legislative issues related to public education in the state. Some of the opportunities for growth include our concerns around our literacy scores, increasing them and also closing the gaps, as well as all of our intention to improve our communication, not just within the school district, but with the community. There's no question that Mr. Mack cares deeply for the Oshkosh Area School District, students, staff, and the Oshkosh community as a whole. It's an honor for the board to have such a capable and compassionate superintendent. So the next is the superintendent's report.
Yes, I think I'm going to turn over to our student leaders before I step into this. And again, as I usually do, if I have any duplication, I have the opportunity to skip anything in my report because you do such a great job in reporting. So.
I'll try not to steal your thunder too much.
You can steal all my thunder.
All right, I guess I'm going first. So on this school board's episode of Keeping Up with the Spartans, I'd like to start off with a celebration, and that would be Project Curb. I was able to personally attend this event on September 23rd, that Saturday, and it was a lot of hard work, but as you can see in the before and after photos, it really did pay off. I was even walking out of the gym and a student was like, "Whoa, what happened here?" And I think that's exactly what you guys were going for. And I was able to help out at Merrill, and a couple of my fellow North students were able to help me out too with the playground, and it was an awesome experience. And I hope that was as successful as from what I saw at Merrill was across the board. And talking about working up a sweat, let's talk about North Athletics. We have a couple of celebrations. For example, Courtney Day, who is a junior, will be attending state this weekend in Madison for tennis. This is her second year, and she's more than ecstatic. We had the state send off today. Further on, we also have North girls golfer Anna Weidman, who is also a junior who qualified for sectionals for golf. And she was quite surprised at this. I have her in my math class, but we couldn't be prouder of her. Our North football team has their last regular season game this Friday, so please feel free to come out and support. It's in Hortonville. Not only does North have a busy night tomorrow, so does West, because not only will we be playing them in volleyball, but also in soccer. This will be a big night for us, and hopefully we'll beat the Wildcats. And then further on, the North girls swimming and diving team competes against West again next week Tuesday, and they have their Fox Valley Association meet on the 28th in Fond du Lac, and here are some photos of our athletes. Gotta remember reporting on this. Next thing to talk about, last week we had our homecoming week, and homecoming is always a huge week for any high school, and our theme this year was Hawaiian, and we had a blast with it. Here you will see one of our teachers, Mrs. Henlin, taking a little nap during school. And to follow the day, our event for the night was movie night, and we watched the movie Moana, and it was awesome. I love it. Next, our next spirit day was Tacky Tourist. And as you can see, we had some of the tackiest outfits out there. It's as if we were at an airport. Moving on, Wednesday was Neon, and you can see Verb actually did something cool this year. They sponsored. If you took a picture in front of a Verb sign and you tweeted at them, you had the potential to win a Verb gift card. So students definitely took advantage of that. And then on Wednesday, we also had our Powder Puff game. It was a little bit of an upset. The juniors beat us, but we won't get too far into that. Let's back that up. And then Thursday was Hoko t-shirts and Hawaiian to go along with theme. Then Friday, we had the pep rally, and the winners of the verb competition, our king and queen were Tyrese Halliburton and Haley Gross. And here were some band students getting ready for the parade. And then here's a dance. It was a huge success for student council. I think my advisor said that we had over 600 students come, which is close to half the school, so it was a great time. Our DJ's name was DJ Will Nye, the DJ guy, so you can only imagine how fun that was. Right. Another event that actually took place yesterday was Bump Set Raise. This was something new that our Rotary group was trying out. It was a male powder puff game, and there was 5 teams, and each team got to choose a charity that they'd be fighting for. And whoever won the tournament, all the proceeds would go to that charity. So overall, Team Too Easy won, and we raised about $400 to donate to the International Relief, Hurricane Relief. I think that's what they said, yeah. And the winning team won gift cards. It was quite successful, and it was a really fun thing to watch. Coming up, we have a couple of concerts, such as our North Choir concert and our Fall Orchestra concert, if you'd like to hear about that. And also the State Honors concert. But a really big event that I suggest all of you coming to, especially if you have children, is our Spartan Spectacular. There will be candy, games, and it's overall just a great time. All right, so that's all I have for you today, but stay tuned for more Spartan updates.
Thank you. Once again, another tough act to follow. All right, here's our Wildcat update. I'm the Oshkosh West Student Government President. My name is Cassie. So first and foremost, instead of doing a volleyball game to raise money for the hurricane, we did Tape a Teacher. So this was during our homecoming week, during the pep rally. And throughout the week, we had 3 administrators, and they had buckets. Students donated in the teacher's name. Which teacher had the most money by Friday at lunchtime got taped to the wall. Mr. Hartman, the English teacher, he won by over $100. So a lot of kids like him and wanted to see him taped up to the wall. So throughout the pep rally, kids donated $1 for a piece of tape, and then we pulled the chair away, and he was stuck to the wall. And it happened to be 85 degrees, so we had to bring a fan. And another English teacher was throwing cheese balls into his mouth. So it was a fun time. Next, we have sports. Our football team has been doing an incredible job. They actually are playoff eligible. They have won over 4 games now, so it's just very exciting. We have our last football game this Friday. Girls swimming, like she has said, we have our dual meet next Tuesday against North, so that's a really exciting meet. We have conference coming up and sectionals, and we also have another meet coming up this Saturday, which I will talk about next. Boys soccer has been doing an incredible job. They were #1 in the state, undefeated, and they tied their last game, which was just incredible. They've been doing such a good job. Cross country has been working hard and doing great. Along with girls tennis, we have 3 state qualifiers at 2 doubles teams and 1 singles team. Girls golf has did an amazing job this season, and girls volleyball, we have the North match tomorrow night, and they've been working hard as well. So the next thing I want to talk about is the Natalie Bolin Spirit Meet this Saturday. It's October 14th. I believe it starts around 10 to 11ish. It's just an amazing opportunity. Natalie Bolin, her life was taken way too young, and we do this meet to honor her spirit. She was just such a lively person. Her smile, as you can see, just lightens the room. And it's just a really awesome opportunity. Everybody comes together. As you can see, our theme was last year Wizard of Oz. So each team in the FVA chooses a theme, and everyone comes dressed up. It's not a very competitive meet, I guess you would say. The events are more laid back, but it's just everyone comes together, everyone cheers for each other, and it's just a great way to honor her. So it's definitely a meet that I would come to. It's just such an amazing opportunity. Next, I would like to focus on giving back to the community. So our athletes are working hard every day in practices, but along with that, they're also giving back to the community. So as you can see on the far left and far right, we have our blanket making. Our girls swim team actually did that today. And we bring the material in, we make the tie blankets after school together, bonding, all that fun stuff, and we donate them all to Children's Hospital. But along with that, we get 2 charities in one. All the extra fabric when we're making the tie blanket, we braid it and we donate those to the Humane Society as cat toys. And then in the middle, we have our girls tennis team, and they were at Evergreen for a Caramel Apple Day. So as you can see, athletes, they're putting in the work, but they're still giving back to the community at the same time, which is just an amazing representation of athletics at West. Our blood drive was the week after homecoming, that Friday, and we actually reached our goal. We had 130 people sign up, but we also donated 82 pints of blood total. It was just an amazing thing, and we do 3 blood drives a year, and we reached our goal this year, so that's always awesome. So we have our next one in February, and then around prom in May. So next thing I'd like to talk about is W Hour. So a new thing that was added this year is instead of having homeroom just on Wednesday, we now have it every single day. As you can see the text on the right, this was from today, but it says W Hour, there's no W Hour today because it was early release. But every day, once you sign up, you'll get a text having you're designated to a certain room. And Mondays, it's a homeroom time, so during this time, there's different things for each class. But for seniors, we get to do college application type stuff, looking at essays, how to write the essays. It's a really great opportunity. And then the other days, there's meetings here and there, but you can go into your teacher's room, get help, or you can use it as a study hall. So it's getting it's taking some getting used to, but we're just figuring out the system. But overall, as the year progresses on and throughout the next few years, it's going to be a great thing that's added. And then along with that, building friendships. This is one thing that started with the Oshkosh West Academy for Global Studies. I was a part of it last year. Our level 3, so our juniors, one thing that we're really trying to enforce is building relationships with the special education department. So level 3 meets with them about once a month, designs, projects, stuff like that, and it's just about building those connections, and the special education department loves it. The friendships that are made are just unforgettable. I met a girl, you can see her right there, she's in the lime green sweatshirt. Her name is Cassie also, and we just have an unforgettable relationship, and it's just memories that you'll just always remember. And then upcoming events, the Oshkosh West Boys Soccer game this Thursday. Then we have the WIA State Tennis Tournament Friday, the Natalie K. Bolin Swim Meet Saturday. We have our haunted house, which is put on by our leadership team and the special education department on October 31st. And then our wind ensemble Halloween concert on October 31st also. So it's going to be an eventful month.
Thank you. Your turn.
Yes, the superintendent's report. Now, I don't believe we have any duplications tonight, so we'll see how we're doing. First of all, the good news from Franklin Elementary. What better way to celebrate International Talk Like a Pirate Day than to dress like pirates? Could you read that in a pirate accent, please?
Arr.
With pirate stories and sing a pirate song. Now that you really wouldn't want to have to. That is just what one Franklin Elementary kindergartner class did last week. Students enjoyed taking special pirate pictures and using green screen, and even did a pirate dance. At Tipler, on September 27th, Tipler and ALPs celebrated a great start to a new school year with a beach party, in where students participated in yard games, beach volleyball, as well as a hula hoop and limbo contest, all while dressed in Hawaiian attire. Students were able to cash in on the Roar tickets to purchase such items as glow sticks, necklaces, and popcorn. A great time was had by all, including Tippy the Tiger, who dropped in for a visit. Congratulations to Jim Wilford, 5th grade teacher at Reed Elementary School, who has 34 years of experience at Reed, nearly our most senior teacher. Jim recently was nominated for a Terrific Teacher Award sponsored by Green Bay news station WFRB. Jim is well known for making connections, engaging with others, and building relationships through the use of a collection of historical items in his classroom. His other claim to fame, he is the only other native of New Ulm, Minnesota that is employed by the district along with the superintendent, and was in my sister's class in high school. Small world. In 2016-2017 school year, Webster Stanley third grade students wrote persuasive papers about the importance of recycling, which led to the school-wide milk carton recycling program. Those students are now fourth graders at Webster and recently met with Sarah from the Winnebago County Recycling to learn more about the impact of this program. It is estimated that more than 7,000 pounds of trash are diverted from landfills, resulting from the savings of 9 trees annually. What a great initiative. Oakwood Elementary students recently participated in an environmental education day at Sheldon Nature Center with the help of UW Oshkosh students, teaching them about water resources, the environment, plants, trees, and quality of life. Pictured here are several elementary students throughout the district for using their technology to learn about Google Slides and how to use green screen and how to create Genius Hour projects. Oakwood Elementary students, PTO and families are taking a few community projects at school this year with others. The first project is a collection of applesauce and fruit cups from the day-by-day warming shelter guests as items. They are easy for the guests to take with them and eat later in the day when they must leave the shelter by 8 a.m. So treats for the day for the warming shelter. Congratulations to the 12 interns who have completed a 9-month internship at Ascension Mercy Hospital and Sisters of Sorrowful Mother Franciscan Courts through Project Search. Project Search is a business-led collaboration between the Oshkosh Area School District, Goodwill Industries, and North Central Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, that enables young adults with disabilities to gain and maintain employment through training and career exploration. Each site has skills that receive training instruction on life skills, employability, and how to perform internships and talk independently. This program was originally developed through Cincinnati's Children's Hospital and now is going on in more than 400 hospital sites in the United States and United Kingdom and in Ireland. And thanks to Linda Perone for bringing this project to us. It's just an outstanding example of community partnership. Fourth grade students at Mrs. Fitzhenry's class at Webster Stanley Elementary School recently partnered to collaborate in design and build an audio enhanced device that would meet specific constraints and criteria. So an interesting project that they're doing at Webster. Roosevelt Elementary students were successful in the Walk to School Day, where students walked and then were treated to fun activities along with prizes from their schools, PAL and VERB. Thanks to all for that great event. Over 200 students and families of Shapiro STEM Academy spent an evening strengthening their family partnerships in support of learning. They enjoyed food, music, fun, and learning, thanks to all who attended this special event. Communities Won recently with their school partners, the City of Oshkosh and Southwest Rotary, went to learn the value of Lake Winnebago as it has to Oshkosh. The students first participated in an awareness campaign about what goes through sewer systems, storm drains, and what ends up in Lake Winnebago. Students also experienced a boat ride where they shared their knowledge of the lake. Jefferson Elementary School students celebrated Walk to School Day on October 4th with Oshkosh police officers on the playground at their school. Students walked, danced, and played games as well as learned about tips for school safety. Oshkosh West's Academy for Global Studies Level 3 students will participate in Every World initiative this year, where schools around the world are matched to work together on a global issue. Take a moment to click on this site. When these are distributed, you'll have those on your site to click on to learn more about the fully funded international program. And one of the Oshkosh West student school's sophomores recently became a celebrity on Harry Connick's talk show when he was invited to interact and join Harry's band to play the clarinet. Take a moment to check that out also on Spencer Ellison's experience on the show. So these are always published a day or two after and available on our website. So if you're looking for those hot keys, you can certainly reach them. And Second Chance students participated in team building activities at the Boys and Girls Club Camp Radford as part of the PBIS celebration. They also recently helped in the community by cleaning up along Highway 76 as part of the Adopt a Highway program, and will continue their work with residents at Parkview. And lastly, simply the superintendent's calendar for the past 2 weeks. With that, completes the superintendent's report. They're getting longer at this time of the year.
Yes, there's a lot going on.
Thank you.
Yes. Are there reports from any other committee chairs? None. Okay. Moving on, we have a written report for the tuition agreement for Whatever It Takes WIT program. So we'll move right into the workshops. Number 1, Oshkosh Corporation partnership with the Oshkosh Area School District.
Sure, absolutely. So, good evening. This was a requested workshop from the board, and so I have assembled together the information that the board was looking for, along with, we have some friends in the audience that are here for support. I have with me this evening Nicole Peterson, our Career and Technical Education Coordinator. I have Jody Larson, the Vice President of Community Engagement from Oshkosh Corporation, and I have Patty Andreessen-Chu from the Oshkosh Chamber of Commerce, and great partners, and we're going to talk more about those partnerships. So, college, career, and community ready, and how much partnerships matter here in the Oshkosh Area School District. So, the partnership that I would like to highlight tonight is the partnership with Oshkosh Corp. And as we are partnering with Oshkosh Corp, their mission is very similar to ours, that we want our students to be college, career, and community ready. And when we partner with Oshkosh Corp, the 3 main areas that we are focused on is STEM, financial literacy, and volunteers, because no matter what, it takes people. It's those people interactions that really make partnerships work. So why are we talking about partnerships, and why is the board interested in this? Is because this is one of our priority areas and meets 2 goals within our strategic plan. Goal 5A, to enhance community partnerships to prepare our students to be college, career, and community ready. And by the way, I am going to get t-shirts and make a hashtag of that here so that we keep on this. And goal 5B, expand and strengthen school and community partnerships, because we know and understand that strong schools fuel economic development, and economic development fuels strong schools. So to start off, we're going to talk about STEM a little bit and our partnerships with Oshkosh Corporation. Oshkosh Corp really helps us with our STEM nights and with classroom connections. Some of those highlights include our middle schools. All 5 middle schools host STEM nights to encourage that awareness and to engage families as well as students in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics activities. And we have Oshkosh Corp always has a strong presence, and if we speak with them in advance, sometimes we get a vehicle there. That's pretty cool. We have engineers and other staff members from Oshkosh Corp work with us on the cardboard challenge within the classroom, snap circuit kits, rubber band cars at the library and at Traeger. They've been engaging in those types of activities in the classroom. And also we have volunteers that Wave Robotics may not be directly in our classrooms, but it's a very important learning experience, and we know how successful Wave Robotics has been in the Oshkosh Area School District and the community at large. So without them as those classroom connections, those STEM connections, we wouldn't have those things. A little bit more about those classroom connections. You heard Cassie talk a little bit about W Hour and getting those academic and career planning and getting ready for careers and post-secondary, talking about applications and getting ready those resumes and those types of things. Well, in 8th grade, that's a really key year in our academic and career planning. And in those classroom connections, Oshkosh Corp helps with our Career Cluster Showcase and participation, and I believe Career Cluster Showcase is coming up on
October 25th. And so Oshkosh Corp has many of those career clusters represented in their organization, and they're always willing to come and help and volunteer at that showcase. Oshkosh Corp also participates in the Job Shadow Days in the spring, so that we are taking students there and looking at different areas within those. We have, I believe it's going to be our 3rd or 4th annual innovation conference coming up, 3rd annual innovation conference coming up in January that we have a strong partnership with. And Career Exploration Tour, as a global company, Communities at Oshkosh North has been partnering with Oshkosh Corp to do that. And Jody is part of the PI Council, the Partners in Education, through the Chamber, as a sounding board when we talk about those education pieces and the business partnerships. Tours and pathways. One thing that we have been working with Oshkosh Corp is that we've had a lot of conversations about engaging students that are in our technical education programs and along manufacturing, but we're also saying, what about engaging students in engineering and those other types of professional four-year university careers? And so one thing that we have been doing is we've been talking with students that are in upper-level math and upper-level sciences, because a lot of times we get really focused on the classroom piece of it and not thinking beyond and what that application is, and we really want our students to start thinking beyond and applying. And so we have calculus students developing and understanding engineering with the help of engineers coming into the classroom for our calculus students. Our tech and engineering students, we are forming that connection between manufacturing and engineering. So some students haven't even thought about a career in engineering. They may have been thinking in one direction, and now they're thinking in a new direction. And then just this past Friday, we had Manufacturing Day that Oshkosh Corp was one of our major sponsors. And we had how many students did we have? Around 40. About 40 students from the high school level participated in our Manufacturing Day. And this is something we're very, very proud of. So last year was year 2 of Project Grill. And Project Grill, I'm gonna go forward here. Project Grill is growing readiness in leading and learning. And in this, it's really a manufacturing and marketing partnership. And so students actually build a grill. That's why it's called Project Grill. They design, research, and develop the use, and so they go through the whole engineering process. And we have marketing students that come in, market, and campaign for manufacturing or for the grill. This past year, I will show you some of the projects that were completed, but we are very happy to announce that we, the Oshkosh Area School District, more specifically our teachers Dan Tao and Robin Ward, along with Oshkosh Corp, were awarded the Manufacturing Partnership Award, and they will be recognized at an award ceremony on October 25th. So we are very proud of them for that New Manufacturing Alliance Award. And so speaking of the grill, I was going to say, Kim, can you click on the photo, please? Thank you. I should have brought the mouse up there. But up here is the first photo of one of our grills, and this is actually the first grill that they did, and this was the JALTV was what this was designed after. And if you can click on the second one, this was the one that won the award, and this was actually Bessie, correct? This is Bessie, and so they patterned the grill after in celebration of the 100th anniversary. And so
there's actually hot dogs on the other side of the black,
Mhm.
so that's why it's up, because they literally used it for the event, so it was exciting.
Correct. So when we said we built a grill, it's a grill, and they actually used it, and we ate food off the grill. So it actually works. So not only was the grill built, but our marketing students worked on promotional pieces with that, and the budgeting, all the other stuff that goes with it, because you can manufacture things, but you actually have to market and sell them as well. So those are STEM pieces, and that's a whole lot of STEM that's going on with our partnership with Oshkosh Corp. The other thing that we want to highlight is financial literacy, because if you remember the 3 parts of being college, career, and community ready, it's career exploration, financial literacy with that foundation of academics, and the career exploration. So the financial literacy is a part that we want to make sure that we're paying attention to, and the Oshkosh Corp Foundation really believes in that as well. And so for the past 4 years, the Oshkosh Corp Foundation has been funding every single one of our 8th grade students to go to Finance Park, which is a junior achievement program. And so 8th grade students are in Team Money, and so they go through the series of modules through Junior Achievement, and so we're partnering with Junior Achievement, and then they go down and visit Finance Park that's in northern Milwaukee, and have a full day-long simulation or experience where they receive a career, they actually get their money, their budget, and they go through this simulation that's very real. Like when they have to go and purchase a car and car insurance, they go to the car lot and go and purchase the car, and then they have to go to the insurance company and get their insurance. So they do all the things. When they need to buy groceries, they go to the grocery store. When they need to go get clothes, they go to the department store, or whichever ones they choose to do that. So it's really cool. So it's about budgeting and financial stability, and it really brings to life and makes real those financial decisions for students. And Menominee Falls, northern Milwaukee, is where that is. So once again, the real world simulation. And so besides that, Oshkosh Corp has volunteers that come into the classroom to teach those JA lessons in the early grades as well. Another piece is that we know that the Boys and Girls Club is a really big support for a group of our students in the Oshkosh community. And so just recently at the 100th anniversary, Oshkosh Corp donated $90,000 to the Boys and Girls Club of Oshkosh to support mentoring and leadership programming, as well as STEM activities that they're housing in the Boys and Girls Club. Because the Boys and Girls Club and our partnership with the school district, we're really trying to extend that learning day and making sure that the things that we're doing in the school district, the Boys and Girls Club is also supporting outside of school and vice versa. So we know that students need support, and we're there to do that. Another piece, this is a little known fact, but UW Oshkosh has been hosting Camp Badger. And Camp Badger is an extension of the UW-Madison program that supports teaching teachers about engineering and design. And so Oshkosh Corp has had volunteers and engineers come and work with teachers in Camp Badger. It's that week-long workshop on engineering design, and they're actually showing and sharing with teachers what that engineering piece looks like. And if you remember from the Superintendent Good News report from Webster Stanley Elementary, Mrs. Fitzhenry's classroom was talking about building the ear and engineering like hearing devices. That's through our new science program that we're currently field testing. And so teachers like Mrs. Fitzhenry have the opportunity to go and work with actual engineers so that they really understand what those design processes are and what it really looks like and feels like when they're really going through that. And that's possible because of Oshkosh Corp's willingness to send their employees and their staff and encourage them to volunteer and work with our teachers. Another piece behind this is that getting students ready, we may be talking about it, we may be doing simulations and tours and job shadows, but sometimes it's really about getting really into that work world. In youth apprenticeship, we may be thinking of youth apprenticeship from like the trades jobs, but youth apprenticeship goes into professional careers as well, including engineering. And so currently, right now, we have 4 Oshkosh Area School District students working in engineering roles at Oshkosh Corp through the youth apprenticeship program. And so we are currently working on actually then now extending that into manufacturing and hoping to hire some students through youth apprenticeship in the manufacturing part. So stay tuned. That's coming to students near us very soon. And I believe on Friday, October 6th, we actually advertised that and started the application process for students to be working in those areas. And finally, this is the part I am very super excited about. This is very new, but we are working on an integrated school to work initiative with Oshkosh Corp. And we are looking to have students either their junior and senior year, if it's the right fit for them, do some of their coursework. But the majority of their coursework would be on the job and then in the real world and having those real world applications. And right now we have a verbal agreement with Oshkosh Corp that they would house an education center in order to make this program go. And so we are looking for 12 students to enroll in this program in the fall of 2018 as juniors and then continue on as seniors. They would complete their on-the-job training through job placements at Oshkosh Corp. And we are hoping that they are going to be making daily connections, real work connections, and know exactly can transfer from my coursework that I'm doing right now right on the job that same day. So making things relevant for students if this is the right fit for them. So we are super excited about that. So my final words on this when we're talking about partnerships is that building community through education so that all students are college, career, and community ready are really what we're all about. And a partnership with Oshkosh Corp has been really key the past few years, and there's been a lot of shift, just like we have shifted our focus to being more about community because we know that everything that we do is rooted in the community. Oshkosh Corp has that same value, and that's been the shift for them as well, and we have been really excited that we have had the opportunity to grow with them as we grow partnerships within the community. So that's our presentation.
Good job. Thank you.
So, do you have any questions or anything that we can answer or help you with as far as partnerships go?
I don't know if Al Wenig is still here or not.
No, he
but-
won't.
Okay. Al and I are probably the last two people who regularly come in and out of this room who have experienced some other partnerships with Oshkosh Corp over the years, going back to the 1990s, when there was a lot of talk about total quality management or total quality improvement. Oshkosh Corporation opened up their training sessions to administrators in the school district, and we would go into trainings out on Oregon Street Road for the most part in that old school location, and take training alongside Oshkosh Corporation individuals. And that was very enlightening to learn more about manufacturing and about one of our chief employers in the school district. They did that for a number of years, and based largely on the work of Myron Tribus and W. Edwards Deming. And then sometime after that, because Stephen Mosling was such a key player in those initiatives and those collaborative efforts, the Oshkosh Chamber established the Stephen Mosling Award to recognize an individual who made significant contributions to collaboration between the school district and the community. So it's interesting for me to see the evolution of some of these collaborative efforts that seem to have been focused in the 1990s. I can't speak to what happened before the 1990s. Maybe I feel like I could someday, but I can't. But going back to the 1990s, when the focus was more on collaboration with adults and the leadership of the school district, to now where the shift is more toward the students and the teachers. So it's very rewarding to see the support that this representative group provides to our students and our school district. Thank you.
Quick question for you, Julie. The last program you mentioned, is that a byproduct or a partner initiative with the program that we had a presentation regarding, say, 12 months ago in Education Committee, a Milwaukee-based program placing high school students out in the workforce?
Yep, that's we are launching off of that.
Yeah.
So that would be a similar program to this.
Fantastic. That's great.
Yeah, Julie had brought this to the Education Committee, and I had asked that she brought it to the whole board because I thought it was a really great, it was her and Nicole had presented it, and I was so excited. It was so awesome. There was a lot more detail, but it's a great program. We're really excited.
But those this wouldn't be possible without partnerships. And so it's Oshkosh Corp, it's the Chamber of Commerce, it's the Oshkosh Area School District, it's Fox Valley Technical College. It's all of us coming together to solve a problem and to support our students with that one goal, with college career community readiness. And so it is super cool. It's exciting to talk about.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I would just like to sincerely express my thanks to Julie in the presentation, but to the Oshkosh Corporation for their partnership. I was blessed in my career with having several opportunities to partner with outstanding corporations in Minnesota. My last experience was with a similar partnership with General Mills Corporation, and to have that same experience with Oshkosh Corporation is just ideal. Corporate citizens are so important to the success of a community, and Oshkosh Corporation demonstrates every day the kind of outstanding corporate citizenship. They care about a community and care about its children, and we're really blessed.
I just had one thing. So thank you so much for doing this tonight. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Jody Larson, for coming this evening. I just wanted to make a comment on something that we didn't touch on, which also directly impacts our students, and that's the donations that the Oshkosh Corporation gives to a number of our programs. If you go to the website projectoshkosh.com, you can find some information on the donations that they've given to our community, which amount to $2.3 million for fiscal year 2016. And $1.84 million of those funds stayed in Fox Valley organizations. And I just wanted to call these out so that you were aware. These organizations included the Boys and Girls Club, the Salvation Army of Oshkosh, the United Way of Oshkosh, Junior Achievement of Wisconsin in Winnebago Region, the Oshkosh Area Community Pantry, the Oshkosh YMCA Strong Kids Campaign, and they also actively support a number of organizations in Oshkosh, including the Basic Needs Funds of Oshkosh, Big Brothers, Big Sisters of the Fox Valley, Reach Counseling, and Youth Go. And that's not even a comprehensive list. And I just wanted to bring that awareness to the board, because I think that there's a lot of things that the Oshkosh Corps does that are behind the scenes that we don't know about. Two more examples were this summer, for example, at the 100th celebration, they invited our Global Academy West students to serve concessions. And as a result, they were able to keep the proceeds from concessions, which amounted to $13,000 for the Global Academy.
Nice.
Another example that recently came to my attention was when Oshkosh Corporation sponsored the Amazing Race with the Mid-Morning Kiwanis program, which raised $18,000 for programs and activities that benefit our children in Oshkosh. So I just wanted to create an awareness that, you know, there's so much more that they do that maybe we are unaware of, and I think that it directly impacts our students. And the last thing I wanted to say is that, you know, I think that as elected officials, it is our duty to support what is best for students. And clearly, what is best for our students is to make sure we do what we can to keep Oshkosh Corporation in Oshkosh. You know, as Julie mentioned, the programs that they provide for our students support our strategic plan and our ultimate goal of making our kids college, career, community ready. So thank you for your presentation tonight, and thank you, Jody, for all you do. And before you leave, can you just tell us really quick about Feed the Body, Feed the Soul? Because I think that's another program that you guys do that is so great.
Come on up here.
So first, thank you, because it is a partnership. It's not just what we do for you, it's what you do for us too. And it's important for our employees because it's growth and development for them to get out, to engage in the community, and that's what they like. Obviously, we know that they're more productive on the job when they can get out in the community and really see what's happening. So thank you to each and every one of you, because you do a job that's very difficult out there each and every day. And you probably don't hear us say that enough to you, but we do appreciate that, and the partnership has been great. But thanks for a moment for Feed the Body, Feed the Soul. So it's another initiative that we did in August. We sponsored a concert that was held along the time frame of Mile of Music, and all those ticket proceeds went to purchase rice for Northeast Wisconsin. And so our proceeds allowed us to purchase rice for 1 year for 18 counties for Northeast Wisconsin. So the counties around here, Fox Valley counties, the Winnebago, Green Lake, Fond du Lac areas. On Friday and Saturday, we are packing that rice. So there is 252,000 pounds of rice that's delivered to Feeding America in Appleton, and we have to pack that into 3-pound bags. So I need about 1,000 volunteers, and I'm close, but I'm not there yet. But we're going to try to get it done and make sure that all the pantries have a year's supply full of rice. So it's about 300 pounds per person that you're going to be packing, if you think of it that way.
Good work.
But we're going to be doing that with some music, some live music, to have some fun. We've had several great donors come out with some food. We're going to offer free T-shirts to anybody who comes to volunteer, as well as we worked with the Refuge of the Arts. So Corey Chisel has a CD that he's going to
give everybody that comes. So it will be a fun time if you haven't signed up. If you just have 3 hours, Saturday morning, we could use some great volunteers. And again, it's very easy work, just putting rice into bags, sealing the bags, putting a label on it, getting it boxed up and shipped off. So please come. It's, if you go to OshkoshCorp.com and then /volunteer, you'll find the sign up there, and come help us and have some fun.
Thank you. All right. Well,
Thank
thank
you
you
very
so
much.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks for everything that you do. Let's see, we're on the second workshop of the evening, 2017 Summer Maintenance Projects Update with Mr. Fox.
Good evening. It's hard to believe we had to wait a whole hour to hear about facilities. But thank you. Tonight is really an opportunity for me to share with you, what have we done for the last year with regard to energy exemption. As you may recall, it was in the fall of last year that we did pass a bonding measure for approximately $17 million for energy exemption. That is a 2-year exemption process. So we had discussed what our projects were going to look like during that bonding measure for 2 years. So here we are at the end of year 1. Again, this is an opportunity to be able to go through and discuss what we've learned. Let's see if I can get the correct. Oh yeah. So tonight, in brief, what we're going to do is discuss the progress to date, what actually occurred this summer. We've got some visual representations of what we've done and a couple of narratives, and I can add a little bit of detail with regard to what was implemented and why. So those are the exemption projects that we've completed. We'll talk about some energy exemption projects that were added. There were a couple things that we had not intended on completing but presented themselves as opportunities throughout the process, and I can explain why as we get into those particular items. But again, there were opportunities that were presented as a result of savings through positive bidding, smart bidding practices, as well as good buying strategies. We'd like to discuss some of the major projects that were non-energy related. We're not all energy here. This was a good opportunity to point out a couple of major investments that Oshkosh area school districts did fund that I think the community certainly will notice. And then briefly, we want to touch on some projects that we are currently engineering for the second part of our energy exemption that will take place in 2018. So as far as a high overview, this year we spent $3.43 million in mechanical and controls updates. Very important to note that this was completed in 9 weeks. I believe our last day of school was about the 12th, 11th, somewhere in that area. Contractors entered the buildings about the 12th, and we were done 100%. All the buildings were clean, and we started school on time. Registration went off without a hitch. So that was great news. It was very hectic. I don't know if any of you had an opportunity to be in any of the buildings while this process was unfolding, but it's quite an experience if you do get an opportunity to stop by. We did spend $1.1 million this summer on roofing repairs and replacements. It equates to 57,000 square feet of new roofing and 306,000 square feet of roofing repairs. We also spent $377,000 in additional exemption projects, which we will identify in future slides. So at a more granular level, you can look at the breakdown of the monies that we had just indicated. The first 3 areas, administration building, Emmeline Cook, Oakwood, those are smaller projects directly relating to ventilation in office areas, temperature control. Those are pretty quick hitter projects. Some lighting, some exhaust. Once we get to Reed Elementary, that was the beginning of our larger projects. These were all taking place at the exact same time. It wasn't waterfall style project management. This was kind of more of a blitzkrieg sort of approach. So we had multiple mechanical contractors, multiple everything, working all these buildings all at one time. Reed Elementary, we have some pictures in future slides, but it was more of a controls upgrade, variable air volume boxes, which are above the ceiling. You can't see them, but they help distribute air flow. So that's more of a space comfort as well as an energy savings measure. South Park was the replacement of and modification of the space that was the old pool that became the new flex space for the middle school. We have some pictures of that to show. Tipler and West, not so much West. Tipler was more of a complete, what we would call a complete MEP project, where we just tore the entire building apart, took the ceilings down, and we'll discuss that in a little bit more detail. But that was more of a comprehensive approach to a building retrofit. West High School was the most expensive, as you can see, at $1.45 million. But because of the large footprint, you may not have noticed that we were even there. Much of the work was done in the tunnels, as that is where a great deal of the mechanicals are located, as well as mechanical mezzanines. So one of the areas that you may have noticed was the office area, which again we'll point out once we get to that slide. And then, as you'll see, the miscellaneous roofing projects, which we identified. So we're not going to discuss those first 3 projects, which were quite small, but Reed Elementary received some of these following enhancements. It was our last school to really be upgraded from pneumatics to DDC, which is direct digital controls. And that's important because DDC is a way for us to remotely view, courtesy of our fiber network provided by Dr. Gunlock, really a way for us to connect all of our buildings together. So one person can really be multiple places at any given time. We can receive alarms and we can command, we can create schedules. It's really critical to how we handle buildings, how we schedule buildings, how we're able to control for space comfort, how we're able to trouble diagnose and communicate with our systems. So this was our last school. Our only building that remains that does not communicate in this system is the rec facility right now. We were able to upgrade from constant volume to VAV. Again, this occurs above the ceiling. Most people don't really recognize or know what's going on above the ceilings, nor should they. But the VAV systems are a current strategic way of handling air volume, air distribution, therefore space comfort, and it's energy efficient. So that's the critical nature of that implementation. We did replace one air handler, as you'll see off to your lower right. That does serve the 3-story tower on the south side of that facility. And we did implement some boiler room modifications, piping, filters, to help move the water throughout the heating system, clean the water throughout the heating systems. That's really been a focus in a lot of our buildings and the cause of many of our problems. So we've had a great emphasis on trying to filter our heating water systems. And we did add a new fire alarm system to that facility as well.
Jim, if I'm not mistaken, we did not need to replace the boiler there because the boiler was a recently installed boiler because the previous boiler was destroyed in flooding conditions that occurred a number of years ago.
That is accurate.
Mm-hmm.
The boilers in that building are, I believe, about 8 years old. So we did not have to replace the boilers. The nature of our scope in this particular energy exemption has changed a little bit from the past, where it was all boilers, all pumps, all the time. Now we've kind of gone back and said, okay, what did we miss? Where can we be more efficient? And so you're going to see the scope of each of these buildings is just a little bit different. South Park Middle School. Again, this was the modification or the change from what was a pool to what is now a flex space. This is strictly the mechanical portion of it. So because it changed its function, we had to completely change its ventilation strategy. So we have a new exhaust fan in that area. There's a picture of the air handler. That area where that air handler sits used to be full of pumps, piping, filtration systems for pools. All of that was taken out. We added an air handler. We have pictures later on of the actual flex space itself. This is just kind of some of the technology that's downstairs that you wouldn't normally see. Frequency drives, when we do talk about how do we control pumps, how do we become more efficient, this is one of the methods that we use through energy exemption to control the speeds of motors, of pumps, of different mechanical systems to become more efficient. Tipler, again, Tipler was more of what we had done in past years with boilers as a complete project, although as Stan had indicated, The boilers in this facility were in great shape. They're only about 5 years old. But there were a lot of things that were not done in this boiler when we first, within this building, when we first replaced the boilers. So we had an opportunity to go back to Tipler and eliminate a very old air handling system, 3 different systems actually, that service that entire facility. They were not functioning well. They were older style VAVs. It was actually called a dual duct system, if you want to look it up when you get home. But it was a very inefficient system. It wasn't working well. It was bleeding a lot of cold air, so temperature comfort just wasn't where it needed to be. So all 3 air handlers were replaced. It was a new ventilation system for all the spaces. 1 new chiller was replaced, and that was for the south addition to that building that handles the library and perimeter classrooms in that area. And that would be the new library, or new chiller for the library. New controls were added for all the VAVs that serve that entire building. I believe there were 130 VAVs. We had to eliminate one of the ducts for the dual duct system. We had to completely pipe the building because it didn't have hot water piping anywhere in the building, because that older style system did all of its heating in the basement and delivered air via ductwork. Now we're heating at the individual classroom space, so that's going to help out with our thermal comfort. That is a picture of one of the 3 air handlers that we did add, and to your left is a picture of the new fire alarm system. You may not have known, but as part of our survey that we had done in the last year and a half, I think, we had CEC go through and survey all of our fire alarm systems and put them in an appropriate order of worst to best, or non-functioning to properly functioning. And we're slowly working through that system. This is really the template of the standard that we've been using. We've got 3 buildings now that have this fire alarm system. It is now a voice strobe system instead of a horn. So when these alarms go off, which is the new fire standard now through the National Fire Code, that will be coming out in 2017, or has come out in 2017, will be in print in 2018. You will now hear a voice that politely asks you to exit the building along with the flashing lights, rather than that loud horn. So you'll start to see more and more of these throughout the buildings, which is exciting to see. Some of our buildings were in terrible shape with just battery smoke detectors or only pull stations. Whenever we add these, they're in full compliance. We've got strobes, everybody can evacuate the building, and of course they are linked directly with a monitoring system. We can call the fire department now remotely without somebody having to actually physically call the fire department, which gives me a great deal of comfort knowing that when that building is not occupied, the fire department is still in communication with us. West High School, again, was for this year at $1.4 million, was the most expensive project that we underwent. Much of it unseen. New ventilation systems for the office area. That was a rooftop unit above the administrative area. It was replacing, we had 2 air handlers in the tunnels, but we couldn't physically fit 2 air handlers because of the amount of air that is now required today versus 65 years ago. So we had to put 1 rooftop on top of the roof, which is where a rooftop would go, right? So it went on the roof and serves the administrative area. The air handler you're seeing off to the right is where it used to be. That was the replacement air handler for the IMC, the tech space next to the IMC, a couple of offices, as well as the little auditorium, which is across the hallway. Those were then tied into an air conditioning system, which really creates a great learning environment. It helps the tech space, and it really helped that auditorium. They have very few conditioned spaces within that building, so it kind of creates better areas for people to learn and to sit down and to be able to utilize those spaces, especially in late spring and early summer. We also changed the air handlers for the varsity gym, which is the old existing gym in the center of the building. There were 2 air handlers in that area, and we upgraded the air distribution. They're not really air handlers, but they were a fan with a heating coil in the auto and metal shop, and they were in such terrible shape that the teachers were actually shutting off their air distribution devices in order to teach, because they would just rattle, they wouldn't heat well, So now they're able to keep these systems up and running. They're quiet, they're insulated, and I've heard nothing but good things about those systems in those particular areas. So I'm very excited for them that they can now teach while they have heat. So that's always a great thing. High School West, we're not done. So it received a couple of extra items. The Kimball, the chiller system was quite literally failing and leaking oil all over the place. We were a little concerned we weren't going to get through the Miss Wisp pageant, but we did. I'm sure they were pleased. So that area received a whole new air handler, as well as a new chiller plant, which sits outside of the Kimball. If you are in the student parking lot looking at the O room from the student parking lot, you'll see our new chiller plant sitting outside in that area. Very important. We added new pumps. Everything internal to control the ventilation for the Kimball is brand new, state of the art, as well as having frequency drives, which we had shown you before. So we on top of being more reliable, we are now much more energy efficient with regard to that space as well. So I had mentioned before some additional things cropped up. Again, as a result of how we bid projects, we're able to get out early, usually January, February. We're bidding, we go through a good competitive bid process. Through that process, we're able to save money. We're also always evaluating the scope. So even once we're into the building, if we find something that may have been added that we no longer needed, we're able to be creative as partners with the successful mechanical contractor, and we're smart about how we purchase. So for an example, if we're doing a boiler project, McKinstry will purchase boilers for multiple projects early before the prices go up, so we're able to save money on projects. So as a result of saving money, a couple of things that we ran into that we were able to utilize those savings for while these projects were underway, 4 particular items. South Park Middle School, we're adding 3 exhaust fans on the 3rd floor. That's really critical. You know, years ago, I think approximately 3 years ago, is when Merrill had a large mechanical upgrade. They added all univents to that building, but we never really exhausted that building. So, you know, imagine blowing air into a balloon, but you can't get the air back out. And so, part of that process is having a successful air exchange. Also, important to note is that in our older 3-story buildings, the 3rd floor always gets hotter, of course, because of other than the 1st floor, just because heat rises. So we had no way to ventilate this. We are in the process right now of adding 3 exhaust fans to that 3rd floor, which will allow us to do both of those things. First, it'll allow us to ventilate the building better when all those mechanicals want to pull in 100% outside air. Also, when we get those days like we did, 1 week we had 90 degrees, 3 days in a row, and that 3rd floor starts to get to be 90 degrees, we can now turn these fans on and we can pull the hottest of the hot air in that building out and pull the air from the lower floors up, and we can make that space more comfortable for our students and teachers. Franklin Elementary had a failed rooftop unit in the gymnasium, which is being replaced. That should be set in place in the next 2 weeks. North High School, believe it or not, the 2 large air handlers do not have a heating coil in either one of them. That's not terribly uncommon, but it is odd for the state of Wisconsin. So we had an issue at that building with static pressure last winter, where we were at a negative static pressure, a lot of cold air coming in through the doors whenever students would enter the doors. In order for us to correct that problem, we need to increase the amount of air these air handlers are bringing in, and without a heating coil, it was going to deliver very cold air to those classrooms. So we're in a process of adding a heating coil to one of the air handlers. We're quite confident that's going to correct the problem within that building, and again, create a more comfortable environment for all the classrooms. Maintenance building received $6,000 worth of lighting. We didn't have any exterior lighting, and the lighting that we did have on the outside was failed, so we had corrected that problem. And then West High School, in addition to what we had counted on doing, in the tunnels themselves there are seven mixing stations. It's a little complicated on how the water works its way through that large facility, but in 7 different areas, the water does collect and is pumped out to various areas in that building. And over the course of the life of that building, valves have been added but left abandoned, pneumatic valves have been left, and we had things either leaking on the outside or we had things leaking on the inside. Both were bad, and both caused us problems where we couldn't deliver hot water to where we needed it. So with the energy savings we had and the fact that we already had a mechanical contractor on site, we took advantage of the opportunity and the cost savings rather than having them remobilized, plus we already had the system drained. It was a perfect time for us to correct this particular problem. So we went ahead and made that change in scope, and we corrected that problem. Our last pump will come online, we hope, next week or the following week in that tunnel area, and those heating systems will be set. As I had said at the beginning of my discussion, not all projects were energy related. We did do some things outside of the scope of saving energy worth noting. So Jacob Shapiro, if you had been by that school, we did re-asphalt the parking lot, playground. We did re-asphalt the drop-off circle, repaired some concrete, put in a new handicap curb, new handicap ramp, excuse me. There was some curb there. One thing I did not include is we're in a process of adding some rubber mulch to one of the playgrounds closest to the building. That'll kind of a project between myself and that school to see if rubber chunk mulch is a way to go on a non-ADA accessible playground. So I think Trina's pretty excited about that. I know her kids, actually when we mentioned this last year, her kids started to do a study within that school on the impact of a body falling on pea gravel versus wood chips versus rubber mulch. So it was kind of a neat way to combine facilities. See, facilities are exciting to kids. It was a neat way to combine the educational aspect to something that they could study mathematically within their own curriculum, and now they're actually going to see it installed this fall. So that's pretty exciting for them. Oakwood did receive new asphalt on their playground. We painted new 4 squares, and the west parking lot was redone as well. Major projects continued. We did install new tracks at North and West, courtesy of Sue Schnorr, who was able to find and carve out some money within her budget. The tracks are a wonderful add to our school system. I have talked to some people who are runners, I am not, but people who run on the track, I've heard nothing but good things. These are urethane tracks, not latex, which is different than what we had. I've been told they can tell the difference just by running on it night and day. These tracks will last a little bit longer. The return on investment is fairly significant. They're half the cost at the end of between 5 to 7 years. When we recoat them, our price is going to be half the cost of a latex track. So our return on investment, really, we're going to start seeing that after 7 years already, just in maintenance costs. And you'll notice that there are 8 lanes, and there are 8 of you. So I don't know if that's a coincidence, but if you're ever there all together, you could all take a lap around the track and maybe raise some money for United Way or something. I'm not sure how that would work out.
I like the taping one better. I don't know if I want to run against you.
West High School staff parking lot, we did replace that parking lot as well. We created and identified better some ADA parking, and we modified the ramp to make it more accessible for handicap. This is South Park. If you've not had an opportunity, I encourage you to stop by the flexible learning space that they created. On the upper right, you'll see what was the pool. The Bobcat is about at the 4-foot level, I would say, but we were able to complete that. The middle picture is what it looks like now. They are in a process. I know that they bought some matting for weight equipment. They were the recipient of some of West's weight equipment on their redesign. So I would think within the next month or so, they're going to have flooring on the perimeter. They're going to move in some weight equipment, and I think they're going to do some aerobics and different things associated with phy ed classes in that area. On your lower right, you'll see that is one of the bathrooms that used to be a locker room. That is what they look like now that we ripped out all the walls and reconfigured those to make an ADA accessible restroom space. One of the things that we as a facilities department really try to do is anytime that we're doing anything with restrooms, we try to do any conversion to make them handicap accessible within reason. Some of the buildings just don't afford us that opportunity given their mass and given weight load-bearing walls. In this particular instance, that was not the situation, so we were able to incorporate those as part of that flexible space, and it really creates, I think, a great opportunity for that school, and I know they're very excited to get in there. So that's everything that we've done this summer. Quick glimpse of where we are today. Starting in July, we've already started engineering for 2018. In 2018, you can expect to see a lot of activity at West High School. The glass replacement, that is all of the glass that you see at West, all of the exterior glass, anything exposed to the elements. We are also, as part of that glass replacement, experimenting with it's kind of a NASA technology. It's pretty interesting, but it's a spray-on coating for the exterior structural steel. And the reason that's important is because of the odd structural arrangement of that particular building, having the steel exposed to the elements and extending inward, conducting cold. We were looking at a lot of different things. So this is an interesting spray that actually encapsulates everything and encapsulate the steel so that it won't conduct cold into the building, making us more energy efficient. We're also going to be adding air handlers for the O-room, for the cafeteria, and for the kitchen, as well as choir and band. And that will complete our air handler replacement for all the air handlers that were installed in that building when that building was built. So all the air handlers at the completion of that band and choir will have been replaced. Webster Stanley will receive an air handler for the auditorium, gym, and cafeteria. Those are original to that building as well. So those will be replaced. And then that building will have all new operating air handlers. And then the elementary wing, we're going to add VAVs. Again, those are devices that fit into the ceiling that are going to make us more efficient. Carl Traeger is, again, what we would call a complete. That's got a fairly significant scope of work. We are shutting that school down for the entire summer. That one, even though you might think, why are we working on this building? It's only 20, 25 years old. But there are things that are failing in that building. There are things that have failed in that building. And there are ways that we can make that building much more energy efficient given today's technologies. So that scope is currently being written as we speak. Our schedule is right now, we just finished reviewing our 35% drawings, which is really just kind of getting our hands about this far, identifying scope of work, really bantering around between architects and engineers, talking to custodians on site, working with Jesse, our HVAC technician, talking to principals, what's working, what isn't working, where can we be better, how do we start adding to the scope. Once we get to the 65% drawings, which are going to be late October, early November, we've got a pretty good idea of what we're going to do. Now it's just really finishing the drawings and getting them ready for bid. 95% we can expect to see in November, early December. Those are drawings that have been gone through. We've got all of our details, and they're just about ready for sending out to bid. I fully anticipate sending RFPs out for the bids for all the projects that I indicated to you in January. We will be awarding contracts late January, early February. We need that much lead time for two reasons. One, as I'd indicated earlier, we get good bid responses the earlier we put these projects out before people have their summers full already of projects. Also, a lot of these areas, especially with the window projects, some of these things are 16-week lead times. We need to give people plenty of opportunities to order this equipment and order it competitively rather than waiting till later. So that is the reason for getting those bids out early. But we are on track and everything is looking good. Everything to date is in budget. We are not over on any of our projects, so our energy exemption dollars are looking good, and our projects are being delivered on time. So, any questions on anything we've done or anything you have seen that you don't understand?
South Park's amazing.
Isn't that a nice space?
It looks just amazing. I used to
Where the pool was.
swim in that pool as a young child.
It's all gone.
And so it's just the transformation.
Good use of space.
Amazing.
It is. I was able to sneak in there, and it's beautiful. It's and the kids. I have children there, and they're really excited about that space. That was a good decision. they're happy.
Members of the board and audience, you just heard from Jim the outstanding product of work that he so thoroughly supervises and so supervises in detail. We are so fortunate with Jim's skills, technique, and expertise. That is certainly a joy to watch. And his thoroughness in working with contractors, but also working with our principals and listening to our teachers and the people he needs to relate to in the buildings that we're redoing is second to none. There are very few of us who get as many thrills, and I think Jim and I get the greatest thrill out of all of this detail of the mechanical systems in the district, but it is thoroughly a joy to watch, observe, and have discussions about these projects with Jim, and know that we're getting the very best return on investment as he handles that. And the working with contractors, we simply just don't get into issues. Jim resolves issues with contractors and with the work that needs to be accomplished in an outstanding fashion. And I can tell you that in all my years, in some 40 plus years of dealing with school construction, Jim is second to none. I went back recently, and in my career, I've been a party to. I'm just about $150 million short of having $1 billion worth of construction experience in my career. And because Jim keeps the prices so within, we didn't get to $1 billion.
Nice job, Jim.
And nice job. And frankly, it's a joy to watch an expert in the field really guide us through this process. And it is sad to see an end to what the governor made sure that wasn't going to be continuing these energy projects. But this district made wise investments from beginning in 2012 on with this funds available. And we would be glad to stand with any legislator or the governor and show the projects that we accomplished in the best interest of the school and the school community. And I'm grateful for Jim for leading that. It's simply fun to watch it, and it's a joy to be a party to that with Jim. Thank you.
Well, and two more thank yous. I would like to thank you. This was a product of the board's work. Could not be done without you passing the energy exemption, so that was critical. And I do appreciate your support in facilities, and what Stan said was wonderful. I do appreciate the accolades, but in all honesty, I mean, it was a custodial maintenance team, a lot of professionals out there on the front lines, a lot of minds working together. So I do want to make sure that I recognize them. Their work is outstanding, and they're not recognized enough for their contributions to these projects that you won't see. They don't sit here before you tonight, but I can assure you that the ideas that I have and the things that I'm saying, a lot of it came from them and were their products of their ideas, and they are a critical element that were part of the success of these projects. So thank you very much.
And Jim's point about if you were in any one of those buildings during the heat of the mess this summer, to walk in the 3rd to 4th week of August, and you would never know that all of this went on in those buildings. And their cleanup after the fact and maintenance of the quality and the sheen that's on those floors in every building, it's a joy to behold. So yes, thanks to all of our custodial maintenance crews as well.
Thank you. I just have one question. You had noted early in your report that the board had authorized borrowing money in March of this year. Does that mean that the remaining funds will be expended in 2018?
We will be done, we hope to be done in 2018.
Okay.
The caveat to that is the glass project, the scope of the glass project is so large. We're going to try to break that up, I feel, into several different bid packages.
Okay.
It remains to be seen as to whether or not we can get that much work done in the amount of time that we're allotted.
Okay.
But we'll see.
But
I think.
we're on solid ground because we authorized this borrowing
Yes.
in March of 2017. And so there's not end date by which this money has to be spent, or is there?
No, we have.
There's a spend down schedule,
Okay.
but we should be okay.
All right.
You technically have to spend the money in 2 years,
Okay.
and so we should be.
So March of 19 would be kind of the end date.
We
Thank
feel,
you for
yeah,
your
our last conversations where we feel cautiously optimistic that we can get the glass in by the start of school.
Thank you very much.
In light of the change of law, I know of a number of school districts who are scrambling this fall. There was a deadline dates for taking action on taking advantage yet of this funding mechanism, and they're scrambling to try to get those in place so that they do have the funds available for coming this fall, or this year.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
For you. So, towards the end here, you were talking about for 2018, the replacement of all the windows
Correct.
around, I suspect around the corridor, around the old room in the gym area.
All of the glass.
It's the
All of them in
entire-
West,
the
all
whole
the
school.
exterior
Everything.
windows.
Everything.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's all
so-
single paned, yeah.
Yes, so last year, you'll remember this, there was an issue with some of the windows
Yes.
and stuff. And so, does this address any of those issues? Are we gonna put in less windows, or are we gonna put in better windows?
Both.
Okay.
So the scope hasn't been written yet, as complete as I'd like to. So I'm not dodging your question, I just can't fully answer it. I can say that where we are right now, there will be less glass. It is likely that the lower roughly 30 inches will probably be some sort of an insulated panel behind the existing radiant. All the windows will be up to code for safety, so that's important given the accident that we did have. But there'll also be insulated glass, and that'll help with our efficiency as well.
Okay. My other question relates to the fire service updates
Mhm.
that you were talking about. So,
Correct.
now, if we were to compare those updates compared to like the rest of the school district, how many school districts have the fire and strobe system versus an older system?
Well, the voice strobe is the new code.
Okay.
So
Yep.
from this point forward, 2018, as you start to install systems, that's what is going to be
Sure.
installed. So I'm not sure if I understand your question, but right now we could install today a horn strobe, would not be an issue. As of next year, we would do voice strobe. So we decided to be proactive. We like to have systems that have some commonality between them, so we started down that road right away. Lakeside was the last school, same manufacturer, so we wanted to stay with the Edwards panel. It's a generic panel that we can use. We're not locked into one service team that has to travel from 100 miles away where we have to pay exorbitant fees. With this particular panel, we have several different firms that can repair that panel. That was a critical element of what we wanted to standardize on. And this particular panel has the ability to be upgraded. A lot of the other more proprietary panels, once they reach the end of their life, you had to rip them out and replace them. These panels are not that way. So,
Thank you for answering that portion of the question, because that's actually where I was going to go. I'm familiar with some of these companies.
I am.
And so my concern was, how much are we paying for someone to come here, to jump in their car, to drive 45 minutes? Because we would charge them to drive here, we would charge them to set foot on the property for a certain amount of time, and then we would be charged whatever the service that needs to be done. And so it kind of adds up really quickly.
Right.
So,
No, you're exactly right, which steered us away from a couple of different vendors.
So then my other question is, and my area is housing.
Mhm.
And so I've done some renovations where we've completely gutted apartments and brought in completely up-to-date smoke and fire suppression systems.
Right.
And in housing, you have to, if you're at a certain level, you have to provide sprinkler systems.
Mhm.
And so I'm just wondering, what does that relate to our schools? Because we update systems, do we have to provide sprinkler systems, or is it
No.
part of the system?
If we started renovating, once we get to a certain percentage of actual renovation, what we've been doing right now with mechanicals is is a maintenance function. So it's not a spatial renovation. So if we were to come into a Tipler and start ripping down walls and flooring and doing different things, we could trigger that mechanism where if I was to build a new school today, it would have to be sprinkled.
Sure.
So when
So Oak Lawn would be sprinkled?
Oak Lawn is sprinkled.
yes.
Yeah. So we always have to be a little cautious. I mean, once we start down that road with any particular building, that's definitely something that we need to be knowledgeable of.
Yeah. And even correct me if I'm wrong, even the renovated lakeside is sprinkled.
The new part.
New part.
Correct.
Any other questions for Jim? Thank you, Jim.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim.
Appreciate it. All right, on to consent resolution agenda. For the consent agenda, the board has been furnished with background material on each item or as discussed at a previous meeting. These will be acted upon with one vote without discussion. If a board member wants to discuss any item, it will be pulled out of the consent agenda and will be voted on separately. The board will consider approval of 1, personnel resolution, A, appointments, temporary appointments, resignations, and salary schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Garner?
Aye.
Garner, aye. Herzog?
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Olmsted?
Aye.
Olmsted, aye. Peschel?
Aye.
Peschel, aye. Carlin?
Aye.
Carlin, aye. Eliason?
Aye.
Eliason, aye. Evans?
Aye.
Evans, aye. Motion carried.
Okay, do we have any requests for future agenda items?
Yes, I have one.
Oh, whoa.
Sorry. I was afraid I was going to forget. I propose that a resolution be made to recognize the Oshkosh Corporation for its service to the Oshkosh Area School District and the essential role that the organization plays in our quality of life and the success for the Oshkosh community.
Okay,
Thank you.
yep, thank you. Any other future agenda items? Okay, I need a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purposes of,
Announcements.
oh, shoot. Do we have any announcements? Sorry, thank you. I was getting all excited about our executive session. Okay, now I really do need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Wait, I gotta read the thing. All right. For the purposes of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, 19.851E Wisconsin statutes, A, potential purchase of property. And 2, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility, 19.851C, A, superintendent compensation.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Herzog?
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Olmsted?
Aye.
Olmsted, aye. Peschel?
Aye.
Peschel, aye. Carlin?
Aye.
Carlin, aye. Eliason?
Aye.
Eliason, aye. Evans?
Aye.
Evans, aye. Garner?
Aye.
Garner, aye. Motion carried.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
How many times?